I find myself asking many questions after listening to this album, but most notably, I want your input on one. What is a death breast? I've been wondering this since the album came out, since the song came out, because it was one of the singles.
Okay, this is dark, but this just popped into my head. It's like the breast of a mother whose baby just died.
Oh,
Death breast.
that's, yeah.
I mean,
it's dark.
I just took like death and breast and put them together, I guess.
Yeah.
But I feel like that the darkness kind of fits this episode.
It does.
In a weird way.
This is a sad episode.
This is a depressing episode.
I have a lot of things to say.
Yeah.
Do you?
Probably less.
Oh, interesting.
Like, I have things to say like in the background stuff more. If that makes any sense. About the movie. Like I have a lot of background info on it.
Okay.
But then about the album, I have like a lot of vibe stuff to talk about.
Good. Yeah. I have some more background on the album, and I have some further investigating and reading for our listeners to do and for you to do if you're interested.
I'm very interested. Because I will say, when I was listening to it, I did mainly focus on the music, which is kind of how I listen to music.
Right, yeah.
So I'd be interested to like, and of course I put on the lyrics when I'm listening to it, but I'm not always reading along with it. So I'm like, I want to read the lyrics like by themselves too.
Yeah.
So
it's a very interesting experience. I bought this album on iTunes back when it came out. And it comes with a digital booklet, which has all the credits and art and lyrics and stuff. So we were just looking through that. Because I wanted to show him that.
I would honestly say like, I feel like with this album, just because of how like well made it is, I feel like it's worth it to like buy a physical copy and having a physical copy. It's like one of those albums, you know, like I would say even a vinyl, even if you don't have a vinyl player.
Yeah.
But having that booklet is, I think,
it's
worth
cool.
it. Yeah.
I do like physical media, I'm realizing.
Yeah. You got to get a record player pretty much now.
Yeah. I just don't have the money.
Yeah.
That's the sad part.
This podcast will never make you that money.
Well,
but
hopefully. What do we need? Like 12,000 listeners or something to monetize?
like 50,000.
50,000. Yeah.
I have no idea.
So tell your friends.
And that's when we'll start making $20 a month.
Yeah.
There we go.
Between the two of us. So it's really
exactly.
$10.
$10. Yeah. We can pay for like one subscription service.
Yeah.
There we go.
One of us buys HBO Max and the other one buys Netflix.
Exactly. So we can like actually watch every movie for this podcast. Yeah. Back to the Uncultured Pop Culture Podcast. As usual, this is David Xerian, joined by
Brandon Roback. We use our full names
we do.
Sometimes.
Yeah. We
Sometimes.
should come up with nicknames or something.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't matter.
Yeah, kind of like the credits on this album, which I'll tell you about. There's some interesting names in there.
That's true.
Some nicknames.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for me, I guess.
What do you mean?
I don't have a nickname. I should add one.
Yeah. I mean,
Now
I
that
have
I'm
I have my artist name, but
That's true.
it's not really a nickname.
Not
Nobody
really.
calls me that in real life yet.
We'll start calling you like Brandy or something.
People have tried that before.
Yeah.
I don't know. It
Hasn't
doesn't really
worked.
work. There's not really any good nicknames with my name, which is one of the reasons I've always been kind of mad about my name.
Yeah.
Besides like that, and then there's also the fact that like there's not really many good Brandons,
Yeah,
which we've
that's
talked
true.
about before.
Yeah, we talked about
Yeah.
this a lot. Well, you could always do like the Game of Thrones thing with Bran.
I could do that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Listeners, comment down.
Yeah, comment
like,
down below. If you're listening on Spotify, we have our comments turned
Exactly.
on. So
So-
give me a nickname.
Give Brandon a nickname and try
Yeah.
and guess what my nickname is. For reference,
is
if you
it-
follow my Instagram, you know what it is.
Is it Devuji? I was going
I
to say.
guess. Now they know.
Yeah. Well,
No,
they,
but
they knew.
that's my nickname that I give myself that no one else uses.
Yeah.
So it's not really my nickname.
That's kind of me. I'm Brandon the.
Yeah,
So,
Brandon the.
what have you been watching this past week?
So, okay, I did not start watching this specifically this week, but I started watching Survivor because Jennifer watches it. It's so much fun.
That's what I've been told.
Yeah. It's like first 2 episodes, I was like, yeah, this is like solid. You know, you see people getting voted out. Third episode, the drama got cranked up. I was on the edge of my seat. Like,
Did you
it's
start?
fun.
Did you start at season 1?
No, we're watching the current season that's coming
Okay.
out. It's like 48.
Yeah, I was going
like,
to say, they do 2 a year. I know that.
And the first episode was an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
And I know that during COVID, the first episode was like 2 hours long, and all the other episodes were an hour and a half. So it's
Yeah.
like crazy.
That's a lot of media.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I'm like, I can't go back and watch all the other seasons, but it's fun. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I know there are good seasons, and I have a friend that can give you like the recommendations of like the seasons to watch.
well, there's one season I do want to watch specifically because what Mike White appeared in that season. He was a contestant on Survivor. Yeah. So I want to watch that season just because he's in it.
Just to clarify, we mean Mike White, the writer.
Exactly,
Not
yeah.
Mike White, the football player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although who knows, maybe the football player will appear too. I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows?
But what have you been listening to?
I haven't been listening to a ton, which I feel like I say every week.
And then you list like 10 things.
Yeah, well, I don't have a list of 10 things this week because I've been kind of going back to what I used to listen to. And I've been kind of like, wow, I actually really do enjoy listening to music because I feel like I've just been listening to so much like bad stuff. And I did listen to Playboi Carti's new album, which is called Music. Also,
Another artist I've never heard of.
he's a rapper from Atlanta. And it's hard to describe how I feel about him.
Yeah.
He's not a good person, and there's been some discourse about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as for the album, you know my thoughts on how long an album should be. 13 tracks is perfect for me.
Yeah.
This has 30, 1 hour and 16 minutes.
Jesus.
It is,
I'm surprised it's not longer.
it's a mess. Well, some of the songs are like, most of the songs are only like 2 minutes long,
Damn,
which is crazy.
That's pretty short. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a ton of them. It's a complete mess. I mean, I've never really been on the hype train of Playboi Carti, and there you can criticize me in any way you want, which is fair, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I'm the intended audience. Well, I know I'm not the intended. Well, actually, I don't know. It's weird because he does have a following of like young white guys who want to party.
I feel like that kind of young white guy that wants to party is like the sort of like turn off your brain party all night.
Right.
Which I don't feel like is really you.
Not really, no.
Yeah.
But this is an interesting album. There's too many songs on it. Most of them are not good. I think I gave it like, it was either a 1.5 or a 1. It might have been a 1 because of how bad it was.
Yeah.
And I did end up listening to the entire thing. I had to do it in 2 sittings. I had to like split it up because it was so long that I just couldn't deal with it anymore. But yeah, so that came out, and not a fan. There was literally one other album that came out that I was even remotely interested in this past week. It's Cleopatra is the artist, which no one's ever heard of.
Yeah, I've definitely
but it was a very good
heard.
album, so I recommend that. It's kind of like noise rock, lo-fi indie.
Oh, that sounds pretty nice.
Yeah,
I'd be interested. Honestly, we could bring it on the podcast one day.
we probably might. Yeah. I mean, as of right now, it's one of the best albums of the year because not like belittling it, but there hasn't been a ton of great music yet this year. So
Yeah, I feel like especially compared to last year, huh? Because like last year
there was a lot.
There was a lot, yeah.
It was quite impressive.
Even me as someone that doesn't know much about music or doesn't follow like new music a lot, I was like, wow, there's a lot of really good music this year.
Yeah.
You know?
I still feel like the run of 2019 from like the middle of summer to kind of the end of spring of 2020. That's the period, I think, when everybody was kind of putting out the best things I've ever heard. I also want to say I'm not a music purist in a way. I think that the best music hasn't been written yet, much less released. I know there's a lot of people that think like the best music is behind us and that nothing coming out now is worth paying attention to. I'm very much the opposite. I think there's a lot of good stuff in the past, but I think the stuff that I like has yet to be written.
Well, I think like even if you love music in the past more, like just having a mindset that's like, oh, like we can't do any better than what has already come is just so limiting. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, every chord progression's been done, so therefore let's give up. And I don't like that.
Like, what the hell? Like if we had thought about that, we wouldn't have like pop music or rock or like every single like new genre of music would have come to exist.
I mean, it would have stopped with like
like
Well, I mean,
drums or something.
You can go as far back as you want.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's interesting that you brought up like 2019 being like the period, because a lot of people point to that year as being like the last like really good year for movies, not only critically but also at the box office. And a part of that was like the whole Endgame, whatever. But a lot of people point to like that year as being like the last year where there was a lot of like hits, but also a lot of critical, successes. Which like last year, well, I would say 2023, everyone was also like, this is a great year for film, but not so much critically. I guess aside from like Barbenheimer. So it's interesting. I feel like 2019 was one of those years, where everything just kind of came together.
It's the end of the 2010s, which I felt like was kind of that's a big decade for pop culture. We had the rise of social media.
Yeah.
We had kind of the appearance of pop as like a genre to be respected.
Yeah.
And then we kind of
the
had
genre that like really dominated too.
Right. And then we had rap music completely take over like the last part of the 2010s. We had EDM in the middle of that and kind of a rise in like indie poptimism of like, this is like something that's respectable to do, mostly thanks to Carly Rae Jepsen, which we will listen to that album at some point.
I know some of her music.
Okay.
But
Call Me Maybe, I assume.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm interested to hear more.
Yeah. She's really good.
That was like one of the biggest decades, I feel like, ever, just for culture.
I agree.
And in some bad ways too, I would argue, like the rise of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Sorry, but just
I was
not
thinking
for
also
me.
the rise of like neo-Nazis and like kind of the alt-right as well has not been very good.
Just all around the world, not just in the US.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and also like obviously there's like upsides to social media, but then there are all the downsides too, especially on like kids and
right.
Yeah.
And now everybody's fighting with each other about everything because you can't have a different opinion than me. So,
exactly. Which I feel like was set up in the 2010s.
Yeah.
So
which if anybody's listening to this and you have a different opinion than me, I don't care. That's actually good. I appreciate that.
Exactly.
I welcome that, and I'd like to hear from you.
Agree to disagree. But let's keep the discussion open.
That's the best thing about art is everybody takes their own thing from it.
Exactly.
That's what I like.
Exactly.
What did you take from this album?
I thought it was really, really interesting. Again, as I said, like I listened to music less for the lyrics. So I do feel like I didn't go in depth there as I could have. So that's why I do want to read through them more specifically. That's something that I kind of want to start doing with every album, like reading the lyrics by themselves for every song. But I think it was just such an interesting mix of like, I feel like there was an interesting mix of genres.
Do you think this is weird? Because I said last week, I edited last week's episode just yesterday. And so I listened to it as I'm editing. And I had said, like, I'm pretty sure 100 Gex is probably the most like experimental and weird thing I have, forgetting that this was the album for this week. This is, I think also, it's not as weird in the same way, but it's definitely like boundary pushing.
I agree that it's boundary pushing. I wouldn't call it like weird in the typical sense of the word, where it's like, oh my God, that's weird. Like that's, because I feel like that does kind of have a negative connotation to it. Yeah,
that's true.
No, I know that's not how you meant it, but like,
no, I also don't think of weird as being like a negative thing. That's my own personal.
No, yeah, I guess you could call it weird. I viewed it more as like an interesting experiment in some ways of mixing. Because to me, it really felt, and I'll bring this up like song to song, but it felt like there was so much interesting use of like country music's like style and like gospel mixed with like pop and voice manipulation, like stuff like that, which I just thought it was really interesting. I guess you could call it weird. I didn't like think of the word when I was listening to it though.
Okay.
Yeah.
This album has kind of largely escaped the idea of being weird and has more gone into the idea of like, this is something that's different.
Yeah.
I guess different would be the adjective more than weird, where I feel like weird is more of the descriptor for 100 Gex.
Yeah. And again, I think that's kind of like the way that a lot of people view weird as a negative word.
Yeah.
Which I guess like in some ways I kind of do too, which isn't the best thing because I don't think like it has to specifically mean a negative thing, But yeah, I think you could call it weird. with, the asterisks that you're meaning weird not as a bad thing.
Yeah. I know last week that some of the song titles scared you. How did you feel about these? They're out there.
They intrigued me so much. I thought they were interesting. And then I got to the title that was 666, and that scared me. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What am I getting into? But I won't say what I thought of that song yet, because
Okay.
I want to get there and talk about it.
Yeah, we have to start with the first song,
yeah.
which is 22 Over Soon. This starts off the album and it introduces the themes of religion, which is very prominent in this one, the idea of the self, and kind of this numerical theme that's present throughout the album on every song, and also within the lyrics sometimes, which this one actually is. So they started off with a sample, what you hear at the beginning, it might be over soon. And then it repeats after that. And it's like, I always thought it was soon in the like transcribed lyrics on Genius that doesn't appear in the official lyrics, but they list it as 2, which they've spoken about in interviews, because when you chop off like some of the transients at the start and end, you get a different sound to the word. So it might be over soon.
That's interesting,
2.
I also thought it was soon. Like, yeah.
That kind of thought is very interesting because that's not something I'd considered. And I also wanted to read, I want to read the credits, and then I want to read what one of the members of Bon Iver said about this.
Yeah.
And I should also probably give you an introduction to Bon Iver.
Yeah.
Which is really, it centers around Justin Vernon, who's the singer. You can make the argument he's the only member. There are officially other members, but he's the one who like is the creative vision behind it. And he was the only one who did anything on their first album because it wasn't a band at that point. It was a solo project.
Yeah.
So the credits appear as Moose is the person.
Nice.
Violins and violas arrangement. Michael Lewis, saxophone. Sad Sacks of Shit, saxophones. And Olson, MIDI capture piano. And then I wanted to read what Trevor Hagen, who's one of the members of Bon Iver, said about this. He said, 22 stands for Justin. The number's recurrence in his life has become a meaningful pattern through encounter and recognition. A mile marker, a jersey number, a bill total. The reflection of 2 is his identity bound up in duality, the relationship he has with himself and the relationship he has with the rest of the world.
That's interesting.
This is reflected also in the last song, which is called A Million.
Yeah.
That's how you pronounce it, apparently. There's just the 000. So,
and, I feel like you kind of see that reflected in the title of the album, obviously.
Yeah, it starts and ends with the 22, the first song, and ends with A Million, which I think is very, very fun.
And ties into like the number theme of the album overall.
So this is an exploration of religion, as this whole album is, and a sense of self. And I kind of wanted to hear what you think. Are those two intertwined? And then also, how does a relationship play into this? Because you can also read into the lyrics as being a relationship between Justin Vernon and another person.
Oh, yeah. I think it depends person to person, obviously. Like, religion can be very connected to your sense of self. I know personally for me it isn't, but that's just me personally. And like, obviously other people find things in religion that help to define them, or like maybe give them a certain purpose, or just like is something that becomes a part of themselves and is important to themselves. And obviously I think that's great as long as they don't use that to like do harm,
right?
Which I do feel like unfortunately quite a few people do,
especially when it becomes corrupted.
Yeah, especially. And I feel like that happens a lot with institutions. But yeah, I think that I think there's certainly a strong connection there, and I can see the lyrics, being representative of a relationship too. I think there can be a connection between a relationship and religion, because that's just certainly something that people can find, as a commonality or something like that, something that ties them together, whether it's a platonic relationship or something more romantic,
Yeah, I also find it very interesting as someone who writes music, because I've written songs that are about my relationship with myself.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that background, it comes off like it's another person.
Yeah, that's very true too.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I always took this as his relationship with himself. I was more in the like religion lens. Also hearing that like 33 God came out before the album, it kind of influenced my idea of like, okay, that's kind of what the theme is.
And I will say, like, listening to it again, like as I said before, and I wrote this down specifically for this song, a lot of it does feel gospel.
Yeah.
Like a mix of gospel with, pop and other styles.
Indie is
pretty much. And I feel like that kind of also moves you towards the idea that it is about his relationship with himself and religion and stuff like that, So I feel like that is really fitting. That's kind of what I see it as too. And in large part because of the fact that it does sound very gospel.
Yeah. This was one of the songs that was released as like a co-lead single.
Yeah.
They were not in the way they appear on the album when they were released. They were both extended versions. So it's 22 Over Soon and 10 Death Rest were the like co-lead singles. Then 33 God came out later, which was 33 days before the album dropped, which I think is very interesting.
I always like when people do that.
Yeah, playing into the numbers again.
I think this is like a great start to the album.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a good lead in. I feel like it kind of like slowly like brings you into the album.
Yeah, it's different going into what you expect from Bon Iver as well, because before this, he really had not used many computer instruments in his music.
Which makes me interested to hear some of his earlier
we will
albums
definitely be doing that, because I think the earlier albums are great as well.
Yeah.
It is, like you said, a very good introduction into the album. And it's interesting because he also thinks of it as an introduction into the album because it's him.
Yeah.
This is the song about him. I gave this one a 5.
Wow. That's a really high score. I give it a 4.
That's also a really high score.
No, I thought it was, like I said before, a great introduction to the album and just a really interesting song and really well done, really well put together, I think. I think it works. I think this is like the type of song that easily could have turned into a mess, but it doesn't.
And
it works.
I also, like you were saying, it's interesting because it is the intro into the album. It kind of prepares you for some of the more weirder things that happen later.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is fun. I also do want to mention that I had heard this song and 10 Death Rest within days of them coming out. I did not really know who Bon Iver was, but I'm, like I said earlier, I'm a big believer in new music. I listen to New Music Friday every single week, like the playlist, and then I have my own ways of finding new stuff. Yeah, so this one I had heard within days of it coming out, and I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. I really like this. And then when 33 God dropped, I pre-ordered the album because I was like, all right, this is what I want.
Oh yeah.
This was the first album cycle that I was a fan of Bon Iver, and I became a fan during the album, like the rollout of the album.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting because then once I had heard these first 2 songs, I was interested in seeing the other thing. So I listened to his big songs, which were Holocene and Restacks at that time. And then after 33 God, I kind of went back and listened to the other 2 albums in full.
And when did this album come out?
This album came out in 2016.
Oh, wow. That's a lot like farther than I thought, to be honest.
This is kind of when my music taste started to develop and diversify from being primarily EDM. So it's kind of interesting of like a few months earlier, I was listening to just like straight up bass house music. And then I was kind of like, you know what? What if I do a kind of a folk song that's got like just in the background?
That's fun.
So yeah, this is a very interesting time for me. And I also remember I have a very specific memory with this album of listening to it for the first time, because the weekend it came out, I wanted to listen to it in full. So I saved like listening to it until I had like a place to listen to it. And this weekend that it came out was the first time that I was going to a concert that I wanted to go to for the artist Eden, which we'll be listening to. And I remember listening to this in my hotel room in Chicago and being like, wow, this is really crazy.
I bet that elevated that whole weekend to like a concert and listening.
Yes, the first concert I ever like cared about going to.
Yeah.
Where I was like, we spent money on it. We went somewhere to a venue instead of just going to like a festival or something. Second song on here is 10 Death Breast with 2 5 dice emojis after it.
Yeah.
That's not included in the official way to pronounce the song, but it is there.
I think it should be included in the official way.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that Over Soon has the infinity signs for the O's in Soon. What did you think about 10 Death Breast?
I gave this one a 4 too. I feel like it's very different compared to the last song.
Very different. And these are the co-lead singles as well, which kind of gives you the range of like what we're exploring.
Oh yeah. Again, like I'm still not the biggest fan of vocal distortion, but I prefer this style compared to like 1,000 Gex.
Yeah.
And I think I first noticed it with this song, Bon Iver. Am I saying it right?
Bon Iver.
Bon Iver.
Yeah.
Okay, just for the listeners, I went from saying Bon Iver
As
like
most
a week
people do.
ago
Yeah.
to saying Bon Iver. So okay, I got it down. Bon Iver, was that right?
Yeah.
Bon Iver, in more than one song on this album, they use like a really interesting mix of instruments that are typically used for jazz and not really in pop. And I mean, you know, they obviously use a wide variety of instruments like electric guitar and drums and stuff too, but using like saxophones and other wind instruments in some songs, and mixing that with like electrical, you know, manipulation kind of stuff. And it's really, really interesting. I've never heard that anywhere else, and I really like it. And
Not a lot of people are doing it as well, which is the crazy thing.
I feel like no one's really doing it that much. And I really like it. And I first noticed it with this song. And I especially like the beat in this song.
Yeah. I didn't know what you were going to think about that one because it's very loud and aggressive and divisive.
I don't know. I like something like this more than like 1,000 Gex, you know?
Okay, yeah.
Obviously, like I don't know like how, if you took it farther, how much I would like it.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's something I just need to
It's also
keep listening to.
It's also darker, which I think is the difference between, I mean, obviously there's many other differences, but between something like 1,000 Gex, where it's much more like happy and kind of like carefree, this is much more like darker. You can kind of feel the walls closing in on the song.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I do want to read the credits real quick. Sad Sacks of Shit, saxophones, Rob Moose arrangement. Writers Ben Lester and BJ Burton, and Andy Fitzpatrick is credited as the 22,000. Don't know what that means. Might be an instrument. And I also wanted to point out BJ Burton. That's our connection for this week.
Yeah.
He produced On 3 by Banks.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not good with names.
Minneapolis based. So this makes sense. This was made in Eau Claire, which is about an hour and a half, I want to say, from Minneapolis.
Which I remember you were telling me is kind of like, has become like kind of the cultural center of Wisconsin, right?
It's
Something
interesting
like that.
because I'm from Wisconsin, so this gives me this album and the movie both are very much like Midwest theme
and
this
that was
week,
what I was
which
going to bring up in the movie. Yeah,
I very much like. So we have Milwaukee and Madison, which are like the two bigger cities. Milwaukee's obviously like a big city.
Yeah.
Madison's a college town, but it has a very big like independent music scene.
Right.
And then we have Green Bay, which is the third largest city, which has the Packers, obviously. And that's basically it.
Yeah.
That's closer to where I'm from. And then there's a bunch of other smaller cities. Eau Claire is really, I think it's in the top 10 of biggest cities, but it's small. It's like 65,000 people.
Yeah.
So it's not very large. It's probably about the neighborhood of Sherman Oaks.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's its own city. And it's weird because it wasn't really thought of as anything until Bon Iver really started like investing in the area. And
which honestly, respect. I love when people do that.
Yes, he very much loves his hometown. That's where he's from. That's where he grew up. And most of the people that worked on this album are either from Western Wisconsin or Minnesota.
Yeah.
So it's a very much a like local thing. And you can kind of hear that in the music, and just kind of the way it is very like Midwestern to me. Yeah. So Eau Claire, like from him kind of investing and drawing attention to it, it's kind of grown into, it's not like it's definitely nowhere near a big city, but it has a scene now associated with it. And that didn't really exist. One of the big things that he did was the Eau Claire Music and Arts Festival, which started in 2015. They played a few songs from this album there. Then they did it for like 3 more years. And that kind of like got a lot of artists together and served as kind of like the jumping ground of like, let's do something. And since then, there's been like a whole revitalization of downtown. I've actually seen Bon Iver twice as well, which I didn't bring up yet.
Damn.
I saw them at
concert?
At Summerfest in Milwaukee, which that's a whole thing, which I'll have to describe to you at some point because it's unique.
I feel like especially if we get like an artist from Milwaukee, maybe that you saw there or something.
Yeah. And then I also saw them in Eau Claire. It wasn't a Bon Iver show. It was one of his side projects. And it was kind of I don't even know what it was. It was just like a little festival.
Yeah.
Both of these were in 2019 as well. The actual Bon Iver show was before their next album came out, which is I, I. The show I saw them in Eau Claire was on my birthday, which is also the day that the album was digitally released. With no prior information about it. They were just kind of like, hey, it's coming out at the end of the month. And then all of a sudden it was just there. And everybody's like, holy shit.
That's a pretty awesome, like, surprise birthday gift.
That was fun. That was my 18th birthday. Yeah. And I was like, wow, I got a Bon Iver album.
Nice.
So, yeah, anyway, back to Death Breast. I only have one note for this song, which is fuckified, which is one of the lyrics that he says. He just makes up words. Yeah. He just says whatever.
Which I think it's so much fun.
It is fun. And who knows what the hell that means, but it's very cool. And I like it.
I feel like I do that, but on accident.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound cool.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
But anyway, I gave that song a 4.5. You gave it a 4.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to 715 Creeks, which I can talk a little bit more about Wisconsin.
Yeah.
715 is the area code for Eau Claire. It's the area code for the Northwoods of Wisconsin. That's where he's from.
Which is interesting because, like, if you come from LA, there's like area codes every like 5 miles.
Yes.
But then I know, like, obviously in a place where there's less people, the area codes stretch out a lot farther, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I've worked out here before. On an average day, I would get upwards of like 15 area codes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Back in Wisconsin, it's like if you don't have the area code that stretches for 100 miles in each direction, it's like, whoa, you're from out of town.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So... yeah, I don't think 715, it might have an overlay now. I don't think it does. That's how like few people there are in that region. But it also includes other cities that are like smaller, but like somewhat important to Wisconsin.
Yeah, because I know that's kind of like the less densely populated area.
Very much, yeah. So 715 Creeks, the only credit on this one is recorded on the Messina, which is named after Chris Messina, who's an engineer, the kind of like in-house engineer. They also built a studio in a veterinary clinic outside of Eau Claire.
Hell yeah, go veterinarians.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where most of this was recorded. It's called April Bass, and that's credited as a producer on some of the songs. Even though it's not a person, it's just a place.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of got a little messed up as to how it was supposed to be credited. I think it's supposed to be recorded at instead of like recorded by.
I thought they were just like, to hell with it.
But I mean, maybe as well. That could be like the name that they had decided on for all the people that were working on the album of like, we all get to share the credit of this place. So yeah, 715 is the area code. This one, you get some Bible, you get some mythology, you get some literature, you get some nature references. And then I also wanted to talk about the Messina just very briefly. It acts like a vocoder, but it's also seemingly relatively random in like the ways it spits it out. You give it a root note of like what song the key is in, and then it just kind of like does stuff. You can play on like a keyboard into it what you want it to do, and it'll do that, but then it'll also add other stuff to it.
And so it like manipulates, right? Like
and it gives you this sound, which no one really has been able to record because it's a mix of, it's all of their stuff, however they've done it.
Yeah, it's like specific.
And it's interesting as well because they mentioned like all of the things that they put into it, whether they're instruments or like physical outboard gear, they all exist outside of the band. Like they're things you can buy. Right. The way they just strung them together is unique.
Is what made,
And they haven't really said anything about it, which is kind of cool. I respect that.
Keep your secret,
You know?
Yeah, that's like the pop version of the opening chord to Hard Day's Night. Like no one can figure that out. Same thing here.
What did you think of this song?
I gave the song a 3.5.
Okay.
I really liked the harmonizing, and I feel like people don't do that like very much anymore. And I think part of that is like you have so many tools on your computer, so maybe you don't have to anymore. But I do think that like harmony does add something if it fits, obviously. Going off what we were just talking about, I wasn't the biggest fan of like the digital manipulation in this specific song. I preferred it in like the opening song. Like it's like that, or not that style, but
it's much less obvious. This is literally just the voice and then whatever the hell they're doing with the Messina.
Absolutely,
cool.
and that just didn't work for me that much.
That's fair. This is a 5 for me.
Yeah. Oh
also,
wow.
I want to say this is immediately when I heard this album, I was like, this is the best song on the album.
Yeah.
Which
so this is your favorite for sure.
I don't know. You can make an argument between a few. Which you'll see.
I'm wondering if he gave this whole album a 5. I guess I'll find out at the end.
You will find out. Yeah. So far we have 2 5s and a 4.5.
Yeah.
For anybody keeping score at home. But yeah, 715 Creeks. I really like this song. I think it's very unique. There wasn't a lot of stuff.
It is very unique.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of stuff like this beforehand, and there's nothing that sounds exactly like it because they have their own unique tone to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving on to 33 God. The credits on this one are interesting. Joe Squints Westerlund did the bowed cymbals.
Damn.
Trevor Hagen, prepared trumpet. Chris Rosenau, electric and acoustic guitars, and sad sacks of shit saxophones.
I'm still stuck on the prepared
trumpet. I don't know
I'm
what
like,
that
how
means.
do they prepare that?
I don't know.
That's interesting. I gotta ask someone about this later.
Yeah, you have to ask Trevor.
I gotta ask Trevor. I'll call him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably got a 715 number.
Yeah.
Most
exactly.
likely.
I know the first part. There we go.
Yeah. I want to talk about a few references in here. He mentions the Ace Hotel, downtown LA.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Yeah.
What is the Ace Motel?
He says staying at the Ace Hotel and the chorus.
Huh.
And
No, but like, do you know what it is specifically in Los Angeles? Like, is it like a landmark or something?
I don't know the entire history of it. I was trying to look it up, but it does have a giant sign that says Jesus Saves, which kind of plays into the religion of this. And this is also where we get his thoughts on religion in one of the annotations.
Yeah.
He said this on stage at the Eau Claire Festival. I don't think there's anything greater than us. It is just us. So after this whole spiritual journey of the album, which we'll talk about more, there's a lot more like Bible stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into all of it because I don't understand it. I'm not well versed in the Bible.
Same.
But
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff, like on Genius, there's a lot of people who have gone through and like annotated stuff and try to make the connections of like what's going on here.
Yeah. Which I think only adds to the experience of listening to an album. You know, if you do know about the subjects.
I also think that not knowing about the subjects and still like understanding it is extremely
also like exploring it and
Yeah.
like discovering it, like maybe by reading other people's comments is so much fun, I think.
What did you think about this song?
So I gave the song a 3.5 too. Just like the last song, like I liked them. I liked listening to them, but to me they weren't as strong as the first two. It was really interesting listening to this song though, because I feel like it's very hard to like pin down a specific genre.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like that's kind of the whole album, you know, since it is mixing so many different styles together, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I've seen art pop, art rock as some of the things for it, indie-tronica.
Yeah.
On Spotify, I think it was one of their genres that they had made. They called it folk-tronica, which I think is probably the best descriptor for it because it's definitely rooted in like American folk music, but then
and it really comes through.
And then there's all the electronic stuff too.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting you say that it comes through because I feel like this is the one where it comes through the least compared to the first two albums. You can totally hear the influence.
Yeah.
And I think you definitely can hear it on this one. I think there's like specific songs where you can hear it. But the other ones, there's definitely more of you can trace the roots, I guess.
That's really interesting. But yeah, I 100% feel like that does come through even in this album, like you said. I also think the background like noises were really interesting in the song.
Yeah. There's a lot of samples of just random people saying like a few lines.
And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you hear the last part where there's like that pitch down voice? Says, "Why are you so far from saving me?"
Yeah.
You want to guess what that's from? I'll read you the quote.
Give me a hint.
my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me from the words of my groaning?" It's from the Bible. It's from Psalm 22. Interestingly enough, 22 being Justin as the person. But I thought that was a crazy connection in there.
That's really interesting.
Also, 33 is the age that Jesus died.
Yeah.
So, and then you have God in scare quotes. Like, it's like, is this God?
Yeah.
This is a very like religious song.
Pretty much, viewers, now you know that I have known nothing about the Bible.
I don't know either. This is all stuff I've learned.
Yeah. No, yeah, no, I know.
And then also
I'm
in the official lyrics, there's a part where it says bird shit. I think it's after the like first chorus. There's like stuff going on in the background. It just says in parentheses bird shit, which I always thought was funny. That was my profile picture on Instagram for a long time. Just the screenshot of the lyric video.
Bird shit.
So you gave this one a 3.5.
Yeah.
This is a 5 for me, which I'm starting to notice a trend, which I'll say later. This song,
5s.
This song is incredible. This is usually the song I say is my favorite from the album, which sometimes feels like a cop-out because it's like this was a single.
Yeah.
This is one of the more popular songs from the album. But there's something about this where I first heard it, I was like, wow, like I've never heard anything like this. And it's so
very,
cool.
very unique.
Yeah.
And I think the argument could say that every song is very unique in this album.
Yes.
Yeah.
Moving on, 29, Stratford APTS, which I assume means apartments, but it's officially listed as APTS is how you're supposed to say it.
Yeah.
The credits on this one are Sad Sacks of Shit, saxophones, Rob Moose arrangement, and BJ Burton writer. What did you think of this one?
Well, first of all, I did want to ask, is Stratford's like apartments a reference to something?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I personally have never seen that. Maybe that was not even something I even thought to look up.
Yeah.
Now
I'm like intrigued and kind of want to look it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gave the song a 3.5.
Okay. Very consistent.
Very consistent. So kind of jumping off where we talked about like the folk roots of Bon Iver, I feel like it really comes through this song. Like I wrote down like this kind of feels like in some ways like a country song,
a stoner country song is how he described it.
Which obviously like it, was developed off folk songs and all that stuff.
I also wrote down one of the 2 folky songs on the album, which I think the other one is A Million at the end, which we'll talk about when we get there.
And I feel like it even reminded me of like Jeff Buckley a little bit, like the vocals from like Hallelujah specifically. The reason why I did give it a 3.5 is like, for me, I just wish that they like kept like the regular vocals because I love them so much in this song. And I'm like, why'd you have to distort them? But I mean, that's just like personally for me, and again, my thing with like vocal distortion.
Yeah.
So I understand like someone loving the, distortion.
And let me give you something about specifically the final chorus and the way the vocals fall apart. It's the plain vocals that it kind of builds up with all the like computerized, and then it becomes the plain vocals that fall apart. And it's kind of like the falling apart of the facade of this like religion that he has going on, this character.
Yeah. Which is like, I, from that point of view, like I understand like having that because it fits into like what the album is about. Even though like I might not personally like it, just like listening to it, like I might prefer something else. I'm like, I understand that it's important to the album this way, I also want to say I really like the guitar in the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is how you make a modern folk song and enhance it with computers. I feel like if this was just a folk song, to me, it's great. This is still an amazing song.
Yeah. But then
you add in the other stuff and it's like, whoa, we're taking it to a new level.
That's really interesting.
After the chorus, it's kind of a post-chorus where it's just 2 words repeated.
Yeah.
So it starts with paramind, which isn't a word. It's something he made up. Once again, kind of continuing the theme of like whatever. You can read about what people think it means.
Yeah.
Then the second one we have is canonize, which is both exist in a religious context and in an art context.
Yeah, I was gonna say like it is again kind of like a tie back to the Bible.
Yeah.
Or just Christianity, I guess.
And then the third one, after we have the vocals like falling apart, is sub-find and some night. Don't really know what's going on there, but it's cool. And
Food for thought.
Exactly. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up about this song is he says hallucinating Claire at one point. So this could be a person.
Yeah.
Which
it could also be Eau Claire.
Right. That's what I'm getting to. Yeah. So it could be the person that is the relationship way of viewing it. It could be the city of Eau Claire, which is, you're thinking about him as a person. And this is his, like the duality of his person.
Yeah.
Because he just mentioned the Ace Hotel in LA. And now he's back in Eau Claire. And the third one revolves around the etymology of Eau Claire. It means clear water in French.
Yeah.
And Claire is clarity in French. So it could be he's also searching for the clarity, or he's hallucinating the clarity that he thought he gained through religion or through smoking marijuana, which is what this song is about.
Well, I also think like that connects to the, to the name Bon Iver, because that's also
French.
And Wisconsin's close to Quebec.
Relatively.
Relatively.
Yeah, we do. We also have French influence.
Yeah.
So
I did kind of pull out that closeness to Quebec out my ass, but
Yeah.
you know,
no,
we'll go with it.
there's definitely like a lot of cities in where
Yeah.
I'm from as well also have like French origins.
Yeah,
some
Louisiana Purchase and all that.
Yeah, and also just French explorers from New France, which
Yeah.
is Canada.
Yeah.
This also, I have to mention, one of my friends, this is his favorite song of all time.
Oh, wow.
Literally, like, this is the song.
Yeah.
It's always number one on his Spotify Wrapped every single year since it came out. I gave this one a 5.
Okay, you're rating this album a 5. I can see it already. I'm like trying to predict.
Yeah, so this is kind of what I was saying, where any of these you could choose as my favorite song, because I think they're not all equal, obviously, but they're all so influential and so important that I can't do anything less. I feel like this.
No, yeah, and
which interestingly enough, the only one is Death Breast, which is a 4.5.
Yeah,
but
no,
I still love it.
If
and
it speaks to you like that, then you know I think you should go for it. You know.
From there, we move on to 666 Upside Down Cross, which is apparently how you say that. James Buckley, basses. Sean Carey, drums and percussion. Matt McCaughan, I think is how you say his name. Metal drum.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Andrew Broder, programming V3. BJ Burton, programming C1, C2. Michael Lewis, saxophone. Sad Sacks of Shit, saxophones, Rob Moose arrangement. And Andrew Fitzpatrick, OP1, which I know the OP1 is an actual instrument, which has been used extensively on this album. That's kind of how you get some of the weird sounds from it.
Yeah.
It kind of functions as like a sampler, but then it like fucks up everything you put into it on purpose. So it gives you like different sounds.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'd never even heard of it before.
It's very cool, and I'd love to buy one, but they're very expensive.
Yeah, that's like everything I feel like.
Yeah, everything cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have expensive taste, so, you know. What'd you think about this one?
So, okay, going into this song.
This was the one that scared you,
This is the one that scared me because I was like, oh my God, is this the devil song? And of course, it didn't scare me.
It kind of is. It's
I mean,
Upside Down Cross.
It is, yeah. It didn't scare me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm scared. But I was like, oh, I'm like, you know,
intrigued.
What's going to hit me, pretty much. The vibe of the song was 100% not what I expected going into this. Bringing up what you were talking about with the metal drum, I love the drum in this.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the drum in this. And this, I would say, is probably my favorite song from the whole album.
Ooh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
What'd you rate it?
So I gave it a 4, but I'm kind of like, should I give it a 4.5? Like, I'm kind of, you know, in that stage.
That's
I
up
think
to
I
you,
do
yeah.
need to listen to it more, though.
This is one that definitely has a lot of replay value for me. This one and
You need
8
to, like,
Circle
keep
are
up.
the two that like made it, besides 33 God and like the singles, they made it outside of the context of the album, and I'd listen to them.
Yeah, exactly. And I really like the beginning, especially on this song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that based on what I know about what you like.
Yeah.
We got another cool made up word in here. In the lyrics, it says, ain't that some kind of quandary? And then parentheses, wandry.
Yeah.
Don't know what the hell that is, but it's
I
cool.
liked that a lot when I heard it.
It's very fun.
Yeah.
This one is also very outwardly about religion. And
Obviously, yeah.
yeah,
the
the
title.
666 upside down cross.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to mention what it kind of functions as the chorus. He says, I heard about it the first time, multiple times. Then he says, I learned about it. And it ends with, I laughed about it.
Yeah.
Which is very much seems to be his journey with religion.
Yeah.
And also, interestingly enough, there's the 3 different like words. There's also the 3 6s in the song, which kind of you could think of as like
that's
parts.
interesting.
And then this song also flows into the next one, which is the first time we have an album that does this. I love when this happens.
I've been waiting for that to happen, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love this. The run of 666 to 8 Circle, I feel like is so cool, and you have to listen to it as one song.
Yeah.
And I hated putting these on shuffle, like when they're just in my playlist of like other stuff I listen
Because you
to.
come to expect like the continuation.
Right.
Yeah.
You want it to build on that idea. Yeah, I love this song. I gave it a 5. Surprise, surprise. I can't really say anything else other than like this is so good.
Yeah.
Love this.
I'm not surprised by 5s. Yeah.
So this one was your favorite.
I would say
I'm kind of
yes.
surprised by that. I thought another song coming up later would be your
Do you
favorite.
think it was going to be the next song?
No, I thought it was going to be 8 Circle.
Well,
as your
we'll
favorite.
talk about
But we'll
that
get
one.
there.
Yeah,
we have to
we'll
go
get there.
through 21 Moonwater first.
Yeah.
Which the credits on here are Jessica Stavely Taylor, voices. Camilla Stavely Taylor, voices. Elise Carey, voices. Sean Carey, DX7/writer, Olson, sampler and field recorder, Andy Fitzpatrick, the 22,000, and Michael Lewis/BJ Burton, saxophone man. This kind of is an interlude, but it also is its own song.
This is my lowest rated song.
I figured.
On the album. It's a 3.
That's what most people say.
Yeah. I feel like it is a pure vibe song, which I guess is kind of like the interlude aspect of it. It feels very ballady, kind of, which is interesting because I feel like I love ballads.
You didn't like the part at the end where it got all fucked up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. I literally wrote an interesting ending that I honestly don't like.
That's fair. So I love the ending.
Yeah.
I like the way it flows in and kind of prepares you for kind of the mellowness of 8 Circle.
Yeah. And again, like talking about kind of that leading in feeling of these 3 songs.
Yeah, it's calm as it falls apart, is what I said, and it builds to the climax of the album. I feel like 8 Circle's the climax, personally.
Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
It's the longest song. It's kind of like the high point.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, there are 2 drummers on that song. When they perform it live, they have 2 people with entire drum kits, which I think is kind of cool. This song also flows into 8 Circle, which is the next song. We got a lot of credits on this one. Colin Stetson, saxophones. Michael Lewis, saxophones. Sad Sacks of Shit, saxophones. Rob Moose, arrangement. Matt McCaughan, drums. Sean Carey, drums. Michael Vincent Wagner, voice. Olson, writer. Andy Fitzpatrick, the 22,000.
Wow.
BJ Burton, writer/programming. And Michael Lewis, additional lyrics. A lot of people on this song. It's also over 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of saxophones in it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Which I feel like continues the trend.
Also, I forgot to mention that 21 Moonwater is a 5 for me. If anyone's keeping track, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 songs as a 5 in a row so far.
And one is a 4.5.
Well, there's actually 6 songs as a 5 so far, and one's a 4.5, but there's 5 in a row that are a 5.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So this might be my favorite run in an album as well, where it's like...
Yeah, I honestly would have never expected you to have so many 5s in one album.
It is interesting.
Wow.
But yeah, so 8 Circle, I'll just get it out of the way. It's a 5. Yeah. Which you could probably have guessed because this song...
I did guess.
I feel like, I don't know if this is what people would associate with me being my favorite song on the album, but I feel like it is the most likely to be my favorite on the album.
Yeah.
So there's a chance that it might be, as with any of these songs.
I mean, like at this point, I feel like you don't even have to really choose which one's your favorite.
Yeah, I feel like I can just say this is the album.
Yeah,
this album is my favorite Bon Iver album.
I gave this one a 4.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I thought it was...
I did think you would enjoy this one a lot.
I did like this one. Again, very country / ballady.
Yeah, there's
feel to it.
There's kind of an R&B element to it as well.
Yeah, too, which I like all 3 of those. So like it makes sense why I would enjoy this song. Again, really good use of drums, I feel like.
Yes, we got the 2 drummers in here. So,
like I feel like every single time they pop up in the credits, it like coincides. Well, I mean, it obviously coincides with when I'm like, I love the drums in this song.
Yeah. So yeah. And also interestingly, Sean Carey also has a like solo career outside of Bon Iver. He's also a great singer. Yeah. And we will probably listen to his music as well. He's also from Eau Claire. So kind of interesting that there's just so many extremely talented creative people from this small town.
Yeah, it's all Eau Claire.
Yeah. There must be something in the water, which brings me to Astuary King is what he says in here. That's not a word. It's a combination of aster, most likely. It's a combination of aster, which is Greek star, and estuary, which is a meeting point between fresh and salt water.
Yeah.
Obviously, Eau Claire is not on the ocean, but is a meeting point. It's the confluence of the Eau Claire and the Chippewa rivers. So it's kind of it's the meeting of something, which I feel like is kind of... this could be a reference to his hometown.
Exactly.
Which,
No, I feel like, and I mean, clear, you have like clear water, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the outro has 3 unique vocal parts going on at the same time, which I love. This kind of, I mean, thinking about it, this is probably not the song that like completely started my obsession with making unique vocal parts stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
But this is definitely one that influenced me a lot, where I like doing this in my own music.
And I'm not even very intrigued to hear your music even more.
I'm not even a singer. That's not my thing, but stacking a bunch of stuff on top of it is like on top of itself is very fun to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said this is a 5. I initially besides like 715 Creeks, this was my other favorite song where I was like, this is the one. So I don't know, but this is one where I can listen to it at like any time, which is unique among the other songs. I feel like they have a special place where I can only like access that sometimes. But this is one where the sound of it is just incredible.
I feel like that's also in general kind of unique to songs, because I feel like most songs, it depends on what headspace you're in.
Yes.
For when you want to listen to it. And I feel like there's very few songs that you're like, I'm always ready to listen to it. So I think that is also something that's very, special then about the song too.
Yeah, it exists in a lot of different contexts. I mean, I used to listen to this song when I'd drive to community college. So like, that's not that's not a great place to experience music, but it's like, it's something that can exist in that time for me.
Exactly.
45, it's 4 underscores before the 4, 5 underscores after the 5.
Yeah.
Interesting, I think. I think it's in 21 Moonwater. Yeah, 5-lane divers. Which I don't really know what that means, but he says it in the background of both of these songs.
Yeah.
And
kind of like connecting them, huh?
Yeah, and 21 Moonwater is the water song. 45, he talks about fire the entire time. They're kind of the opposites.
The fire song, yeah.
Yeah. And they both exist on other sides of 8 circle, which, the circle definitely is something there.
Yeah, for sure.
And the circle of the album being 22 a million, you know? And then the logo of 33 God is in a circle as well. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but at the same time,
I feel like
this is the type of shit that I love.
There's enough stuff there. And I don't know. I feel like
to me, this is what
you can do something like this. Why not?
Exactly. This is to me is what I think people think Taylor Swift is.
Yeah, I can see that.
Where it's like there's all these like clues that you have to decipher.
Yeah, exactly.
Which in this case, there kind of are, because you have literally no idea what he's saying, and many parts.
And it's done well.
The credits on 45 are Lewis and Vernon, the Messina, Andrew Broder, programming. That's it.
Really simple.
This time we put the saxophone in the Messina, not just the voice. And I've also seen it written as the Prismizer. Yeah, it gets all fucked up and weird, which is very fun. This is one of the songs where listening to the saxophone, it almost becomes like an organ at some points. Like I've never heard anything like this, and especially much less created with an actual like instrument that's not a synthesizer.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it was run through some stuff, but like it originates as an actual saxophone.
Yeah.
What did you think about this song?
So I gave this
Did you give it a 4 or a 5?
I give this one a 3.5.
Damn.
Sorry.
That's fine. No, I figured.
With this song, I was not expecting like the wind instruments and all that stuff. I feel like in theory, wind instruments with the voice should work so well. I just feel like for me, it didn't work that well in this song. Like it just didn't come together fully. Was this a 5 for you?
I was going to say, do you want to take a guess?
It was a 5.
This is a 5.
Yeah.
At Summerfest, I bought a t-shirt that is the logo of this song.
Yeah.
I have in my closet right now.
Cool.
This was not the one that I was always like, this is my favorite song, because it's so simple.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what makes it so good. You don't really need more. You need the saxophone. You need him talking about fire.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like sometimes less is more.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
This one also has a folk feel to it, but it's not the folky song, which is the next one. I feel like that's the argument you have of the most, like, Americana song.
And I 100%, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, and then I have a quote on here as well. I believe it's from Justin. It's sorrow and pain explaining joy and family and fear of death and love, which is very interesting. Yeah. It's very much there's a lot going on with just a few like words, I guess. And
I feel like that can tie in pretty well, like those ideas with fire and what fire can represent.
What it can do for you.
Yeah, exactly.
It can create and it can destroy.
Exactly.
This song flows into A Million, which is the last song of the album. I want to start off, well, I'll read you the credits. It just says recorded on the Jeannette, I believe, Jannette. Don't know what that means. And then the only other credit is Lewis, writer. Yeah. I want to start off with your score on this one.
I got to take back what I said about 666, because I forgot the song was on this album. And I remember why I didn't give that song a 4.5. It's because I gave this song a 4.5. This is my favorite song on the album.
Okay.
I just forgot it was on this album.
You want to guess what I gave it?
A 5.
Correct. That's 8 songs in a row that are 5s.
I never would have thought.
I don't think that'll ever happen again.
Yeah.
I don't think it's happened before. I don't think it'll ever
That
happen
has
again.
to make this album your favorite album
It's
of
a
all
3.
time.
It's a 3.5. No, I'm kidding.
It's a 1. It's a
Yeah. This is, I mean, I'll spoil it. This is a 5 for me. I mean, you probably
Yeah.
could have guessed that by now.
Absolutely. I feel like I guessed it after you had like 3 5s in a row.
Yeah. After 33 God, you were kind of like,
Yeah.
oh,
Okay, that's what it is.
yeah. After I said, unfortunately, this song's a 4.5.
Yeah, exactly. I really love the song. It feels like a song that's connected to all the other songs, kind of, which I feel like, it's the end. It's,
This is-
coming full circle.
This is the million. This is the
Yeah.
inverse of 22.
Exactly.
Which I want to read this quote. This is also from Trevor Hagen. This is how we opened the album and then how we closed the album. He says, "A million is the rest of that world, the millions of people who we will never know, the infinite and endless, everything outside oneself that makes you who you are. This other side of Justin's duality is the thing that completes him and what he searches for. 22 a million is thus part love letter, part final resting place of 2 decades of searching for self-understanding like a religion, and the inner resolution of maybe never finding that understanding."
I think that's a really beautiful quote.
Yeah, and that's not even the guy who wrote the song.
know,
He's just
right?
one of the members of the band.
Yeah. I love the simplicity of it. I don't know. I think you can get so much meaning from the song, if you know what I mean.
I do have a direct quote from Justin.
Oh, I want to hear it.
So it's 22 being me and a million being the other. That was a way to look at it as a circle.
Yeah,
Circle.
exactly. Yeah.
You know?
No, and I love the idea of the album beginning with the song kind of about him, or not about him, but like
Yeah, I mean, it
about
is.
him,
Yeah.
to like ending with the song about everyone, kind of. Like it just, I don't know, it works so well, and the fact that they are so tied together and kind of create that circle,
Yeah.
I think makes this album work so well. You know?
I have 2 selections of lyrics here. One of them that's from inside of the song. Who knows how many poses that I've been in? That's one of my favorite lines of the entire album.
Yeah.
That's just a great idea of like, who have I been?
Yeah.
And who have I been to these million people?
Yeah,
The
and I
others.
feel like it gives you such a strong image, and it's something that everyone can relate to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the last one, which is the last line of the entire album. Well, it harms me, it harms me, it harms me. I'll let it in. Love that.
yeah,
I think that's one of the like best things to kind of remember, you know?
yeah,
It's like you can't experience these emotions that he's grappling with if you're not like living, if you're not allowing them to be felt.
yeah, exactly. Which, incidentally, ties 100% into the movie we're going to talk about today too.
Correct.
Yeah,
So this, as a circle, this album, I feel like it's very cohesive. It's very much a concept, all related to itself. Obviously, this is a 5. What's your score on this one?
So, okay, with this album, again, like I loved so many elements of it and so many songs. I did give it a 3.5.
Interesting.
I feel like a lot of the other songs didn't work for me that much. And
Despite being rated highly.
what?
Despite
No,
being
yeah,
rated
like
highly.
3.5 is still a very good score, obviously. I think it's not so much like the songs themselves that work for me, it's elements in the songs.
Yeah.
And I think that is just for me, like wanting the simplicity of just the regular vocal stuff like that, which is why I gave it a 3.5. But I do think it's undeniable that, this album does have a lot of depth to it. And I do think it's the kind of album where you have to listen to it more than once to really discover all that,
Yeah.
I do think that, like, I don't know, the last song is really exceptional, I will say. And it's 100% my favorite song. I don't know how I forgot it was on this album. But yeah, it's a really good album, I think.
Yeah,
a really
this
solid album.
This album for me, I kind of forget how influential it is sometimes because it's become such like a part of my life to listen to it. It's very rooted in the Midwest. It's very rooted in this time of my life. From 2016 when it came out to 2019 when the next album came out, this was like, this was on repeat for me. And with that, I've kind of decided a few things.
Yeah.
I've decided that this probably is my favorite album of all time.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what else there really is. I've given other albums fives before.
Yeah. No, yeah. Obviously, like,
The Night Game
yeah,
was
you're
one of
gonna
them.
have other albums that are scored as high, but that doesn't mean that like
I-
all of them are equal.
Right.
you know?
I do think this album had an impact on me that I didn't even really realize. And this is also one of those albums where I have like a few philosophies on music and on art. This is one that I don't think I would ever be capable of creating, and I love it for that reason. There's
Yeah.
other things that I love because it's like, wow, this is something I can aspire to do. To me, this
Yeah.
album stands alone as something that, like, this will inspire me. This is not something I can aspire to unless I have like a lot more education,
Yeah.
life, a different like state of being almost.
No, I totally understand that.
And I think I've decided that maybe that Justin Vernon might be one of my favorite like songwriters and like musicians of all time, which, you know, that's good. He's
And like one of the most influential in your like
in
journey as a songwriter.
influential in my music and in my own life.
Yeah.
He's also a very good person, which helps.
Yeah, exactly.
There's been a few times, I mean, he's associated with Kanye West, so you get a little bit of,
Yeah.
you know, but he's very active in like political stuff and in organizing a lot of every single show since like this era. There's been a charity associated with it that's local to the place they're performing in. He's very
fantastic.
active in Planned Parenthood as well. So like,
And I think, you know, even just the fact that, you know, you see all that he's done for Eau Claire.
exactly.
Like, I think that
For
already
his
speaks to
home.
his character.
He lives there still too.
Yeah,
He has
there
a
we go.
studio, you know, that's where he's based out
Yeah,
of.
he's bringing what he can to Eau Claire instead of leaving to places that already have it, which I think speaks to his character.
Yeah. And like learning about that, it kind of makes me think, wow, there's a part of me that wants to do that same thing
Yeah.
at some point in my life. You know, obviously I'm out here away from home right now.
Which is, you know, maybe part of what you have to do until
Right.
you make it and get to the point where you can go back and, you know, bring which you can with you, you know?
Yeah, which also it's kind of an idea of, do I want to go back or do I want to go somewhere else
Yeah, exactly.
that is more closely aligns with my ideals? Maybe I want to go to Eau Claire, you know?
Yeah, there we
It's
go.
definitely much more progressive than where I'm from,
Yeah.
the part of Wisconsin I'm from.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, this album is, I don't know, it's crazy. I feel like I'm definitely going to get a tattoo of one of the like logos of one of the songs
Yeah.
at some point. I just have to figure out which
And
one.
yeah, I was going to say it's going to be hard to choose because
Yeah.
there's so many that they're just so interesting. You know, like,
There's so many songs that I enjoy, but then there's also so many of the little logos and like the pieces
Yeah.
of art on this album that I absolutely enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think this is probably my favorite album of all time
I'm happy we chose it for
Yeah.
this episode then. Yeah.
because I feel like I also have a lot to say about the film.
Yeah.
So yeah, 3.5 for you. It's obviously a 5 for me. As we continue, this is another album that I'd like to revisit at some point.
100%.
Because also, and you know, now that I think about it, I'm kind of just going through a bunch of stuff that I like to try to get a gauge of what you also enjoy.
Yeah.
There is a part of me that wishes we started with the first Bon Iver album and then we could kind of watch the transition, like the growth.
Yeah.
But I don't regret it because I do really like this album. And I think this album really speaks to me in a way
Yeah.
that this movie also
Well, yeah,
does.
and I'm happy that we did go with this album because, you know, I'm happy that like you shared the importance of this album on the podcast, you know, like,
Yeah.
I think that's really special. And I think that it's especially special in the context of the film, which, you know, we'll get into more.
Yeah. Let's do it right now.
Let's do it right now.
Set in the Midwest as well. I want to mention
exactly.
Lake Forest, Illinois. I've been there.
Exactly. But yeah, no, like just quickly before we get into that, like, again, I think I want to go through the lyrics. I think there's more to the album.
There's a lot to discover.
Yeah,
I discovered new stuff listening to it this time. I've
Exactly.
listened to this probably 300 times in my life,
Yeah.
like all the way through.
Exactly. I don't think like one listen is enough. So that's why I'm like, I want to go back, listen to it, you know,
And I did also mention to you that I rated this song previously on my Rate Your Music profile, and the scores have gone up now.
Yeah,
I think there were 3 songs that were not 5s, and now there's only 1. So,
and then that one will go up too.
It might at some point, because that's the other thing. Like, even if it's not a 5, 4.5 is like crazy good.
Yeah, exactly.
But it also, like, the album can't exist without it. Like, there's nothing I would change about it being on the album.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so let's get into this movie.
Let's get into it. Ordinary People.
Ordinary People.
1980.
Yeah. This is an oldie but a goodie in my book, at least. But yeah, something that I'm going to be doing that's a little new is from now on, I'm going to give the IMDb logline for every movie for any of our listeners that perhaps haven't heard of or watched. Well, if you haven't heard of it, you obviously haven't watched it.
Yeah.
But
that's another thing too. Like, obviously we're going to spoil parts of the movie.
Yeah, so
but
if
like,
you are interested in this movie, but like if you hear the logline and you're like, I want to watch it, pause the podcast, watch it. Same thing with the album.
Yeah.
Watch it, listen, and then come back.
This will also kind of give you an idea into what I thought about the movie. Obviously I liked it. So I'll tell you that right now.
Well, obviously,
but anything we say about it, I feel like can't do it justice.
Yeah.
So
this is one of those films where you can only really experience it.
Even if we spoil it, there's still something about watching it. It's like Call Me by Your Name in that regard, where it's like we can say whatever we want, but there's nothing like experiencing the movie itself.
100%. Yeah. So the IMDb logline goes, the accidental death of the older brother of an affluent family deeply strains the relationships among the bitter mother, the good-natured father, and the guilt-ridden younger son. Directed by Robert Redford, his feature debut.
His
directing debut. It was written by Alvin Sargent adapted from the book of the same name by Judith Guest, who we'll talk about a little bit.
Only 4 years prior to the movie coming out as well, which I think is crazy.
Oh yeah, and it came out, he read it and bought it then, and then he spent like 2 years writing the script.
Yeah, that's dedication.
Yeah, but he said it took a long time to like get it right, but he wanted to get it right. And the author Judith Guest said like he was constantly sending me drafts, being like,
"Oh really? Yeah.
What do you think of this?" And she was like, "Dude, you got it. Like, I trust you." Cinematography by John Bailey, edited by Jeff Canoe. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Music by Marvin Hamlish. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. And interesting enough, for anyone that knows classical music, you'll notice that Pachelbel's Canyon is used in this a lot. And this like led to kind of the rediscovery of this piece of music.
Yeah.
And now it's like everyone knows it.
I was going to say, I associate this song with weddings.
Yeah, that's because they use it all the time at weddings. But before this, like it was very like little known.
Which is interesting. I think it's a good one. I learned to play this on piano when I was like 10 years old because I was like, this is fun.
A classic, like everyone plays it. I'm also going to start saying just the main actors all together at the beginning of, talking about the movie. Starring Timothy Hutton, Mary Tyler Moore, which was a surprise to a lot of people when it first came out, Donald Sutherland, Judd Hirsch, and Elizabeth McGovern.
Yeah, I didn't realize this was Mary Tyler Moore. I've seen her. I've watched the Mary Tyler Moore show. God, the Mary Tyler Moore show, which I think is great. Yeah. And I was like, wow, I recognize this lady. I've seen her somewhere. Yeah. And then at the end, I was like, oh my God. Because I was eating during the opening credits. So I looked away when her name came up. So I didn't realize,
No, yeah, it was a big surprise for a lot of people because, she was known as a comedic actress for both Dick Van Dyke Show and Mary Tyler Moore. And she was kind of, I think, surprised too to be cast. Just to quickly get into the novel first, it actually had started as a short story. But Judith Guest was like, she said as she was writing it, she couldn't stop writing because she was like, these characters are too interesting. And Redford, when he read it, he was like, oh, I have to adapt this, which we sort of talked about. Yeah. And yeah, this was his first movie that he directed, not his last. And we are going to watch more of his movies because he is an excellent director. I think he is overlooked as a director.
He did Sundance, apparently.
Yeah, he created Sundance.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. That's
incredible. That's a huge contribution to film in the US.
I think he has done so much. And I think it's kind of sad that people only know him as an actor.
Yeah, I mean, I know him from Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid.
Yeah,
That was the
exactly.
first movie I ever watched in a film class.
Which we will also rewatch because I do love that movie.
It was really good. Yeah.
It's such a good movie.
That's like probably one of the best Westerns, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's definitely like top 10, possibly top 5 for me. And that's filled with a lot of really good Westerns. So, yeah, it's an excellent movie. But yeah, so talking about Mary Tyler Moore. As I said, she was known for comedy. But Redford actually, he said as he was reading the book, he saw her in the role of Beth already. Here it kind of gets muddled because he also said that he saw someone walking along the beach and they looked sad. And then he realized it was Mary Tyler Moore. So I'm kind of confused on like which moment like brought her to his mind.
Yeah.
If it was when he was reading the book or if he saw her on the beach before he read the book. But pretty much he said like he saw this sad aura and he cast her. And I do think it's kind of sad. She never really, like her film career never really took off after this film.
Yeah.
Even though I think it should have. Like she is fantastic in this film.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible how
It
good
is.
she is.
So I don't really know why, you know, her career never took off.
Maybe some of it is to do with the fact that she took this risk of taking this part.
Because it is a very big risk.
It's very different from what she portrayed before.
Very, very different. Yeah. A few just like little tidbits. During the filming, Redford, and I think this speaks to his skill as a director, he told everyone to like stay away from Timothy Hutton, who plays Conrad, to make him feel like isolated, like his character. I do feel bad for Conrad though, because like he was like walking around and he was like, I don't know what is up. Like, why is everyone not talking to me? He said like afterwards, like when he told me at the end of filming, I was like, okay, that makes sense. I'm happy, like because it did help me, but I do feel bad.
Yeah, that feels like workplace malpractice a little bit, but I understand why it happened.
Like when like
And
I feel like it did help the
performance that you get from Timothy Hutton. I literally looked him up and tried to figure out like why he didn't have more of a career after this.
Well, yeah, I know he's done a lot of TV work.
Yeah, he also has allegations. So
yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Which, you know, continuing the trend of somebody doing bad
I feel like
things
that's
that
gonna
they
be
shouldn't.
in every single episode. Anyway,
Yes.
Judd Hirsch, who plays Dr. Berger, did spend a lot of time with them and connect with them, which I feel like you can tell in their relationship.
Absolutely.
But yeah, let's get into it. What did you think?
Do you want me to start with my score? I feel like I ask this every week.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Do you want to take a guess of what you think it is?
I want to say 5, even though I feel like that might, I'm kind of tooting my own horn. Was it a 5?
It's a 5.
Yeah.
This is the first 5 that I've done for a movie.
This is also a 5 for me.
This, I debated doing a 4.5 or a 5 because there are a few things that are like technically wrong. There's some really bad ADR in the beginning of it. I don't know. There's a few things where it's like it makes it less than perfect.
Yeah.
But
which I feel is like, you know, first time director.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking about what it would have been like in the hands of a different director. Sorry about the car horns. I'm not pausing for that. We've paused for like 5 different ambulances so far.
Sorry, guys, but no.
And I mean, I went back and forth on it, but ultimately there is not a single thing I would change about the script.
Yeah.
This is
100%.
potentially like the best screenplay I've ever seen.
I
Like this is
agree.
an incredible story. And I think the time it appeared at as well is crazy. This is so ahead of its time. Having the dad have emotions and like be the one to comfort his son and have that relationship be healthy. And then have the introduction of like psychology into it.
Yeah.
Is like, I mean, I don't want to say like this is groundbreaking, but in a way,
No, but
like,
it was ahead of its time.
Oh, yeah.
Before this, you had never seen a family portrayed like this. And also, I think even to a certain extent, and obviously I haven't seen all the movies that were released before this, but I don't think that you had seen a family portrayed with like such depth, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, each character had a depth to them and were treated as like real people.
Yeah.
And I also feel that they did a really good job of treating depression and kind of the like grief that comes along with this as like a real thing and not like glamorizing it or
the different ways that different people like go through it.
Yeah.
And I think that's especially the fact that characters in this film have so much depth is especially It's very important because this is the type of film that can fall into melodrama very, very easily.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think that's both the characters and the actors and the script coming together.
Yeah, I think the casting on this was perfect. I think that the writing on this was perfect. There's a few direction things where it's like,
Yeah.
ultimately that's good enough for me. And the way that this, like I was saying with 22 a million, this kind of like, it's not something I'm going to go back to all the time because it's so special that I feel like it has to exist in its own place.
It's special, and it's also so heavy that I think
Yes.
it would take a toll to come back to it a lot.
Yeah, you were saying this is sad. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure I will probably like
I feel
it
like
because
that's
it's
not
sad.
even like the proper word to describe it.
It's
though.
devastating.
It is devastating.
I mean, I cried to it a few times.
I've cried every single time I watched it. So it is that kind of movie. Just
It
like
won the
that,
Best Picture as well, which I saw.
Yeah, which is
Controversial.
it is controversial because that's the same year that Raging Bull was nominated.
I've not seen Raging Bull. I know it's on
Yeah.
our list though.
Having seen Raging Bull is a great movie. You know, don't get me wrong, Martin Scorsese, I love it, but it's not Ordinary People. I'm sorry, but Ordinary People, I feel like is, it's the type of film that comes like once a century kind of.
Exactly. That's exactly how I was thinking about it. We're like, I don't see anyone taking a risk of doing this again.
Yeah.
I don't even see anyone taking the risk of like adapting something similar to this.
Exactly.
And the crazy part is this is Paramount. This is like,
Yeah.
I don't think of them as taking a risk of making this kind of movie.
Yeah, and Redford was taking this around and no one wanted to do it. And then finally, like, he knew one of the people at Paramount that gave him a chance, pretty much, and decided to take the risk. And it did pay off because, it ended up with this film, this final product.
And it made money for them as well.
I mean, it was successful.
But yeah, this is just one of those ones where it's like, I can't believe a major studio made this. Like, it's that good that I feel like you having that influence would kind of ruin it.
And it's, how you're talking about how you look up to the album and even like you feel like you can't ever do anything like this, but that doesn't make you like angry. It makes you happy. This is me with this film.
I agree. Because I write too.
Yeah. I could never write anything close to this.
Yeah. This is, like you were saying, it's
And
a
I'm
once
happy,
in once in a lifetime kind of thing.
Exactly. I did want to talk a little bit about Mary Tyler Moore and Beth.
Okay. Yeah.
I do have some background stuff on this. There's actually there's a snippet of an interview she did later in life, which I think you should recommend. You can literally just search up Mary Tyler Moore Ordinary People and it'll come up on YouTube, and it's really interesting. But I did have some quotes from her that I took from, or not quotes, but I paraphrased some of the things she said in that interview. And also I want to talk a little bit about her background life because I do think it ties into the movie a lot. Her character is such a hard character. I don't know, it could have come off so easily as like this demonic character.
Yes.
But it doesn't.
That's an actor thing, I think. Because
100%.
Like I feel like all you have to do is read this in the wrong way and it's wrong. But the way that she like created this character, and it's such a hard line to do. And that's when it's done the best, is when it's like, this is the only way it could have been done.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's amazing work.
Yeah.
I think she had, as much as I love all the other performances, I do think that she had the hardest job out of any person on this film. And I mean like everyone, because like I don't know how she did it, to be honest. Like I don't know how you take someone like this character and actually
give life to it.
And in some ways, even though you could say she's kind of the antagonist of the film, and like still make her believable and make people understand her.
Yeah.
She does say that some people have called her character a bitch after watching the film, but she has always disagreed with that. And she said like she did see her as a victim of the way that she was brought up, and of the way that
because you can see that with her mother
exactly
as well.
And like the way that she views life and all that. Sadly, it does seem like this character of Beth Jared was in some ways reflective of her own life. As she wrote in her memoir that her relationship with her son Richie was kind of reminiscent of ordinary people. I actually took a quote from her memoir that I saw. There was no question about it. By the time Richie was 5, I already let him down. When he needed me the most, I was busier and even more self-concerned than I had been when he was an impressionable infant. That really struck me because
that's insane to admit as well. Like that takes a lot of...
I think it takes a lot of strength to admit that.
Yeah.
And also I think, it's a really interesting, parallel to, the character that she played.
It shows that she has she relates to it in a way that I feel like a lot of other people wouldn't be able to do if they were cast in this role.
Exactly.
That she can draw on that life experience to bring life into this character.
Exactly. They reconciled, I think, when he was in his teenage years or late teens, which makes it even sadder that at the age of 24, he died from an accidental gunshot wound 3.5 weeks after Ordinary People came out. I think the fact that that happened and she was able to, be honest about the relationship, I can't imagine that, to be honest. I can't. Especially right after the film came out. I thought that would be important to bring up.
Mm-hmm. I do think that she's...
in the context of the movie.
Yeah, she's kind of the only person that I could see in this role.
Yeah, I don't think anyone else could have played her.
Yeah, I don't know any other actors from this time. I'm not good with that. But
as someone that does know a lot of actors from this time, I don't see anyone else.
Yeah.
Playing this character. And I think she should have won the Oscar for this. I
don't know who won.
Sissy Spacek won for The Coal Miner's Daughter. She gives a great performance. I love her in that film. But I think that Mary Tyler Moore gave not only the performance of her lifetime, but one of the best performances ever.
Definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And I feel like the way it develops throughout the movie as well. You don't really pay attention to her at first.
Yeah. And then it slowly starts to come through.
And then you can look back at her throughout the entire movie and it's oh my God, it makes sense. It makes complete sense.
Yeah. And I think it's sad that her career, kind of stalled after this film. I feel like Timothy Hutton's career also kind of did. He ended up popping up in some bigger shows in the 2000s, and of course, as you said, there were allegations and stuff. But his career sort of seemed to stall. Judd Hirsch,
I thought he was really good in it too.
He is really, really good.
Child actors are always hard, and a lot of people say that you don't want to work with them because you never know what you're going to get.
But he gives such a performance. His performance, and that whole, pretty much the climax of the film, that's mind blowing to me. He gives a beautiful performance, and he won Best Supporting Actor, which is part of the Oscars category fraud, where you're if this actor can win easier in this category, then we'll put him there, even though he is the main actor of the film. He's not the supporting actor.
Yeah.
But they knew that if he went up against Robert De Niro as Jake LaMotta for Raging Bull, he would not have won.
Yeah.
And Robert De Niro gives one of the best performances of his lifetime too. Okay. So it's I personally think they should have tied, but what can I say?
I hear a lot that the 80s are one of the best decades for movies as well.
70s, 80s, those 2 decades are crazy. I will say, I think it's crazy that Donald Sutherland wasn't nominated even. He was never nominated in his entire life. Not
ever.
Once.
I thought that his performance also, I don't want to compare them.
No,
but
it gets overlooked kind of next to the other 2, but
he was incredible in this, and I found myself being the most endeared towards him.
Yeah,
in a weird way, because I relate to Timothy Hutton, his character, not the person.
Yeah.
I relate to Conrad, and also when it opened up, I wanted to mention this. I didn't write it down, but I just remembered it right now that it feels very Catcher in the Rye.
I never read it, so I don't even know.
When it opens up, it's kind of I don't know. There was a vibe to that where I saw a parallel between Conrad and Holden
And
Caulfield.
it makes sense. It's the outer suburbs around Chicago, I think, or not Chicago, but it's
it's in
the
New York.
Illinois area,
Yeah.
So it makes sense from that. It's an affluent family, there are ties to, those kind of conservative families.
I think also this is the perfect place for it to be set.
Yes.
They actually shot it in Lake Forest as well, which thank God.
Oh, I'm really happy they did. Yeah.
That's kind of the perfect place for this to happen. And I do think that being from the Midwest, This, I'm surprised, isn't talked about more just as a film, but also this feels like a very foundational like piece of media related to being from the Midwest.
Yeah.
And like growing up in kind of a middle class. I mean, I didn't grow up as rich as this family, obviously.
But there's still connections.
Yeah,
like,
there's there's a very much a relatability with that. Yeah, I did want to say Donald Sutherland as well. Like immediately, I was very like I noticed his performance, and I was like very appreciative of him, and I loved the way his character was written as well. As a man who is comfortable. Well, somewhat comfortable in having emotions.
Yeah.
And
who I feel like...
And who's there for his son.
Who's there for his son and becomes more comfortable with his emotions throughout the film, and like therefore can be there for his son more. And also maybe in a better way being there for his son. Like where he talks, at the conversation that they have at the end, He did have the best career out of any of the actors in this film, I would say, because he was well known in the 70s already, and he continued, well into his 80s before he passed away several years ago. And obviously he was in, Hunger Games and all that. So he, very well known. But yeah, I do think it's crazy he was never once nominated for an Academy Award, because he's given so many beautiful performances.
Mm-hmm. We also have to talk about Judd Hirsch.
Judd Hirsch, yeah.
That's an amazing performance.
I love his performance.
He brings like some of the comedy as well.
Which I think it makes sense because he came from Taxi, the sitcom. Yeah. And I feel like he was the perfect man to play this role.
Perfect man in the perfect role to bring some like, I guess, light into this world in a way that doesn't feel like it's making fun of anything that it's taking seriously.
It's genuine.
Exactly.
And it's successful too, in the sense that, you're watching this film and you're like, I want him to be my therapist.
Yes.
I wish. Yeah. And I also wanted to bring up Elizabeth McGovern.
Yes.
Because she is so good in this film.
I was going to say, I feel like I could see people being polarized on her performance. I didn't look up anything, but I did look up a few reviews, like modern reviews of people hating this film, which I think is crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like on Rotten Tomatoes, like the three newest
Media
ones.
literacy is dead.
Literally, yeah. The three newest ones were all like, this is one of the worst things ever made. I can't believe Raging Bull lost to this. And I've never seen Raging Bull, but the most people agree that this is a better film than Raging Bull. The most people who have seen it. Yeah,
I feel like that's the problem. Case. Which again, I love Raging Bull, but
we are going to watch it at some point. But yeah, Elizabeth McGovern, I loved her performance in this. I thought that was such a great way of writing that character, and she had such a great way of interpreting like the mannerisms and stuff that like endear you to her. But she's also like, she's weird. She's weird. Strange. She's quirky. Yeah. And that's the perfect performance.
And it's like, it's what Conrad needs, like a quirky but genuine, like someone, the only person that asked him straight to his face about, what happened, instead of like going behind his back, stuff like that, like the person that he needs kind of in his life, even if it's not like they're going to have an act, like if they don't, start actually dating or like, whatever happens later in these characters' lives, like he's like, she is the friend he needs now. And I think that she like gives that performance beautifully. And she went on to have like a really good career too. Maybe not to the heights of Donald Sutherland, but I mean, she's known now for like Downton Abbey and all that.
Yeah. And I do want to mention two things. One of them is about the way that like things are revealed in this movie. We don't know about a lot of the stuff until it's like actually time to know about it. And I thought that was really well done. That's both kind of a director and a writing thing. Yeah.
And then it's revealed in a way that's not like, oh, hey, son who recently, like it's done in a natural way,
Exactly. Yeah. And it draws attention to it without like explicitly drawing attention, like in a way. And then I also wanted to mention that the reveal of like when you see his scars as well, like you don't really know much. You know that he tried to kill himself. Yeah. And then you see the reveal and it's like, oh, wow. Like it's real now, like,
and I don't know. I feel like there's even this visceral reaction to it, like seeing it like that,
And then the other thing I wanted to bring up was there will inevitably be complaints about oh my God, he needed a girl to save him to to be better. But I think it speaks more to the power of having someone who listens to you, not necessarily
exactly.
like I need to date somebody. I need a romantic interest for my life to have meaning. It's more of I need a connection with someone who understands me and values me as a person.
And I think the other part of this film that works so well is that it shows you that it's not just like I need this connection with someone that happens to be a girl that I'm also interested in, but it's, having a different type of connection with my therapist, having a breakthrough with him, having something with someone in my family, in
The dad.
his father. It's not just one thing; it's several things coming together at once, or not at once, but like several things in his life.
Yeah,
It's not like one thing can help you get over something or start to deal with it. Which I think is very true to life in general.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously have not watched a lot of movies. It's going to be hard to get this one out of my top 4 on Letterboxd, kind of thing. Depending on other movies that we see, this is probably going to be one of my favorites of all time.
It's one of
incredible.
Those movies. Yeah.
This was a good week as well as we look at the time of how long we've been recording for.
Who knows how much longer we're not getting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't wait to show you Robert Redford. I've only seen 2 of his films.
Okay.
He's done more, or directed more. And I'm talking about specifically directed because I've seen more that he's been in as an actor. But the other film that I've seen is The Horse Whisperer, which I think is another beautiful film. I think you will like that one too. I will say I do think Ordinary People is stronger as a film.
Okay.
Even though I do think that Horse Whisperer is stronger on the technical side, which makes sense because he made it later. He had more experience, although he also acts in it, which is he's acting and directing, which is harder. But I think you'll also like that film. So yeah, I'm interested to see what you think of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is really good. This is a good week.
There's a lot of 5s for you this week.
A lot of 5s.
Everything was 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy you really liked this film. I thought you would, to be honest.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts? You also gave it a 5,
Oh yeah.
So.
And this is it's cycled in and out of my top 4. I'm honestly after rewatching it, I'm like, you know what, I gotta put it back. I'm putting it back.
It is kind of that good.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So I love this episode.
Yeah.
Because of everything we talked about.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Is that where we leave it?
I think that's where we leave it.
Sounds good.
Don't forget to rate, leave a comment,
Yes. Follow us on Instagram.
Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Letterboxd and
rate your music. Yeah.
And
we'll see you next week.
See you next week.